anybody who wants to download it already, you can at the conferences, and even the text version you can also download from my website. And there you can read who I am. One day I got a phone call, and the guy who invited me in his company for sometimes a few days a year, he said, "Niels, we have a QA problem." I said, "Does that mean you have a testing problem?" "Yes, we have a testing problem." Okay. So I said, "Okay, what's the problem?" "Well, we have this big pile of stuff. Yeah? One tester, senior tester left, one junior tester there, and the other senior tester already left the company because he wanted more money. He went to the boss, "I want more money." "You want more money?" Sorry, so he left. And 16 developers put into this pile. Yeah. So actually, this is the picture when I went there. This is what I saw there. He was just sitting there. And he said, full regression test. Full regression test for everything takes about 15 days. I said, "What's full regression test?" "Well, it means they have to do all the tests they ever did on this product." Okay. Too few testers. And he already said, "Should I hire a few more testers?" I said, no. First, let's see what the problem is before we try to solve what we shouldn't solve. So, can you help us? He asked on the phone. I said, "I think I can do." He didn't see my face, of course. Yeah. He said, "How do you know?" "Well," I said, "I have a secret weapon." Anybody recognizes this? Yeah, maybe you're too young. Yeah. Recognized. Thank you. Plan to check act. Yeah, I think it works. Can you not? If intuition, how we automatically react on situations, if intuition would be perfect, everything we do would be perfect, right? Not everything we do is perfect, right? Therefore, apparently, intuition sometimes points us in the wrong direction. Yeah? So once we recognize that, instead of just, what's the next thing, and we already do it, you can plan. And plan is twofold. What we want to achieve and how most efficiently to achieve it. Then we do it according to the plan, and that's already difficult, because the plan must be doable, and we must follow the plan. But assume we did that in the check phase, we can check was the result as we expected, and the way we achieved it as expected. If yes, shoot, and can we do it better? If no, how can we do it better the next time? Yeah? And then in the act phase, we decide what to do differently the next time. Because if we don't do anything differently, the next time the result will be the same. Otherwise, statistics wouldn't exist. Yeah? So, the thing is, pull do, maybe plan. Who's planning from time to time? Okay. And then you do, according to the plan. But do you check that the plan worked, both on the product and the way you did it? Yeah? And did you change your way in the next cycle? And then, well, most people check in the back of their mind. Yeah, you know you should do something better maybe. But do we? We are so busy. So, the act is what is usually lacking. That's the secret weapon. What are we going to do differently the next time? Because then you can start randomly, forget agile, just start randomly, very quickly do this. Every week you go through the cycle, and in a few weeks you're perfect, almost perfect. So instead of complaining about the problem, stuck in the check phase, yeah, it's because of this, it's always somebody else who causes it, right? Not us. No, let's do something about it. Move to the act phase. What are we going to do differently? And then plan according to, do, and see, did it really work? Yeah. So, well, I explained this, and I said, I've had this similar questions many times, and every time within a day we got some solution. So in this case, statistically, there's a reason to think that we also can find a solution. So I was allowed to come to this company in another country. Takes about 6 hours travel. That's okay. That's normal for me. So we were sitting there. Yeah, I said, where's the projector? That is some years ago. Not everybody had a projector in these days. So where's the projector? And then open Excel. I said, okay. I taught these people already previous times how to do some planning of their work. So the tester was sitting there. Yeah. I said, what are the chunks of work that's facing you? Well, he wrote this down, and I said, how many days do you need for this? He put that down, and we added them up, 106 days. That's half a year. Customers waiting for, tester was the bottleneck, customers waiting, leaving the company, going to the competition. So the life of the company was on the line here. So I said, okay, just for the exercise, you can do it later with the other stuff. Let's take one package and cut that in smaller pieces. So, he was a clever guy. He knew what he was working on. He could do this very quickly. So he typed this, and of course I had to anonymize it. He wrote some text there. I can't show you, but this is the principle. And he said, okay, so many days, and at some time we said, okay, the rest we can do later. Now, I said, okay, you are the bottleneck. Customers are leaving the company. The company is on the line, so what are we going to do about it? I said, how about we empower you as the tester? You get the whole company at your disposal. If you need the boss to do something for you, I make sure he does it for you. You can imagine that the smile already went a little bit up. Yeah. And I said, if you have the whole company to your disposal, developers stop developing and they assist you wherever you can have them assist you. If the boss assists you, we make the boss assist you. How much time do you still need? Because you have the responsibility if we deliver to customers, it works. Yeah? So he looked at it, put the numbers there, and whether the numbers are exact or so, that's not the point. He put some numbers there, 47. That's about 9 weeks. We could be much faster. And just as a sanity check, the unit tester, what can she do? And some developers, what can you let them do? Yeah. But you still have to check that they do the right things for you. Okay. Now, the next thing is, who is waiting for this? Which customers are running away because they don't get the right results? So he put the names of the customers there. I had to make them a little bit short that you don't recognize them. Yeah. And this is an interesting thing. We don't know who's waiting for it. So why are we looking at it? So you see, with these, even if the numbers are not exact, there's so much you already can learn from this. Yeah. So, and that I have the timeline technique. I say, okay, now we have a timeline. About 9-10 weeks, and every 2 weeks or faster, we are going to deliver to customers. Yeah. which are we going to deliver? How do we choose in which order to deliver? So one thing is maybe this customer already left and he is not interested in our product anymore. So if we work hard to spend time to solve his problem, and then we say, ta-da, here it is, the customer says, I don't need it. We selected the wrong customer to work for. It could be that there are customers who are screaming and screaming and never buy anything. Should we spend a lot of time on them at this moment? Companies on the line. So, which customers are the most important to deliver, are most eagerly waiting for us, so that we can make them happy in the right order? Another thing is, some customers are waiting for several things. Do we have to solve everything and give the whole package to them? Or solve something so that they can start looking at it, and in the meantime solve the problem of another, and then etc. So there's a lot of things you can do to prioritize here. So based on that, it was 22nd of February, I was sitting there. So I said, which would you work on tomorrow? He looked at it, knowing which customers these are, knowing what this was about. He said, I would select this one. So, 22nd, we can deliver in 2 days and make them happy. Oh, never thought of that. So, based on that, he filled in a few more things. And at that moment we could stop, because he got the picture. Now he could do it himself. It just was getting me over this mountain. Okay, what was the result? We empowered the tester. You have heard about empowerment? Yeah, you have the whole company at your disposal. You tell us what you need from us. Yeah. It was done in the 9 weeks. The whole pile was gone. And since then, the pile never grew. We didn't hire, well, they hired another tester. But that tester is not up and running immediately, so that didn't help in the first days. Customers systematically happy and amazed. What happened to this company? First the company sucked, and suddenly they start delivering stuff, and it works. I think that's normal, but he kept up with development ever since. He bought a small whiteboard, and he put this timeline. Every week he made a new timeline there, few weeks, how to plan the right order of doing things. And his little whiteboard he carried with him in a meeting room and on his desk. Yeah. Increased revenue. A year later I was there, and they said, Niels, you know what happened after this? Turnover of the company increased by 70%. I said, well, maybe I helped a little bit, but you did it. Yeah. And later he was promoted to product manager and coaching the next testers. So what did we do? Timeline principles. I have several processes, and this is just an example of one of them using to solve this. We cut the work into chunks. No detail, just chunks of work. And with chunks of work, you calculate in days. Who calculates in story points? Who in days or hours? Okay, 50-50. Story points is just waste, but that's another story. We estimated, adding up, and don't be afraid that the estimates are not correct, that they are not precise. They are not. But don't be afraid, because if the average is okay, the sum is very precise. That's just mathematics. Yeah. And then usually you see it doesn't fit the available time. Deadline or whatever, as fast as possible. We don't have that time. What are we going to do? If everybody is waiting half a year, they're gone. We don't have to do it. So we find strategy to solve. Usually you see that you don't have enough time. Now what are we going to do about it? Don't tell me that's impossible. What are we going to do about it? And then clever people, once you ask that question, moving to the act phase, people suddenly are very well able to give some suggestions what to do. You're working with clever people. You are clever people. Just ask that question. What are we going to do about it? Because failure is not an option. Yeah, we find strategies, select the best strategy to the best of our knowledge, of course. Predict what will happen when, and learn and repeat every week. Because maybe next week things change. You've learned something, etc. That's the principle. So another guy in the same company had a small project. I use the same technique. Activities, I just called it activity. Of course, he had the details there. This was his estimates. Apparently, it was quite clear what he was supposed to do. And he had also in days. And then he already worked for some time. And then the company said, well, we have to satisfy this customer. When? You get that question? When is it done? Well, usually if I come into a project or a team and they ask when is it done, I said after 5 weeks we will pretty well make predictions. Yeah. In this case, this is what he already did, and this is what he still had to spend on these things. This already gives some idea about, hey, here his estimates was pretty good. Here, apparently, he thought it was simple, but it was more complicated. Yeah? Is it something that he didn't foresee, or is it something that just took him more time because he had to learn? Then we have the calibration factor. Yeah? Don't waste too much time on that, just I show you the principle. So what's the calibration factor? We took the time really necessary and what he thought, and that's 1.4 as much, and we use that here for the rest. Not on these three things, because I think these estimates are quite okay, because he already knew what still had to be done. So calibrated, this was the time to spend, and then this is the only thing management is interested in. Don't give them all story points or numbers or velocity. They can't do anything with it. Give them dates. Then we will deliver. So apparently it was 29th of March this day. So 1 day more, 30. Apparently there was a weekend in between. Oh no, 2 days, that's not. 2, etc. So we said if business wants to deliver to a customer with these activities working, then it will be there. The other question is, if we have to deliver of the 5th of June, this is what you will get and this is what you not will get. We already know. We can tell you now. And if you want to change things, you can do that. Now, often when you do this exercise, you will see that you need more time than you have. Recognize that? So what are the options if you see you don't have enough time? The first 4 options that everybody uses in a project or in a team are the deceptive options. They don't work, but intuitively it's so strong that everybody still keeps doing it, which is of course weird, but that's why I'm explaining it to you today. So we have a fatal date. That's the same as a deadline. Yeah? Fatal. And if everything from now, there's no point in changing history. We can't change history. Whatever happened, happened. Good or bad, can't change it. Yeah? So we always count from now till some deadline. And if it fits easily, we could just start working. If it fits exactly, we know it won't. Yeah? And if it doesn't fit, we already have a problem. The first time I made this picture, the line went from here to here. But then I thought, well, if the match is over, you can't score a goal. So we just started too late. So the 4 options that are they're even counterproductive. They make it worse. But they're intuitively so strong, so you have to be aware and then go against it. Hoping for the best. We know it's impossible, but we hope. Or we have to do it. Let's go for it. Well, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. You recognize those? Happen every time. They don't work. It makes it worse. Working overtime. Who works overtime? Never, ever work overtime. You're fooling yourself and your boss. 40 hours or whatever you do in a week is already tiring. If you work more, you become more tired, make even more defects than you normally do. And in the end, you work overtime only to repair the defects you introduced by working overtime. Never, ever do it so that maybe once or twice a year you still do it when it's really useful and you have the energy to do it. Yeah, that's the paradox. Never, ever, but. And then the fourth deceptive option is moving the deadline. Parkinson's law says you spend the time available. So if you make the deadline further, you spend the time available. Yeah? Or the student syndrome. Yeah? When do you start working for your exam? Yeah? 3 weeks before? That's what most of the ladies do, but maybe not here. Yeah? Or one night before. Yeah? Be honest. So student syndrome is the same of the other side of the same medal. Yeah, thank you. Doesn't work. The only way we may move the deadline is towards us, because then the laws work positively for us. That's why I love deadlines. Deadlines make you work more efficiently, just because of this. It's human behavior. Recognize it, accept it, and then see not what you can do against human behavior, what you can do with it. Because we can't change our genes. We are like that. Accept it and see what we still can do. So, the next one is adding people. Adding people to a late project. Anybody remembers Brooks' Law? 1975, that's a long time ago. They knew it already that time. Adding people to a late project makes it later. Because you have to tell the new people and they have to learn, etc. Logic. Well, we found even that sometimes adding people to a project makes it later. And Putnam measured it, because this is what we think. If we have a 12-person-month project, we can think 6 people can do it in 2 months, 4 people do it in 3 months, yeah? And 2 people do it in 6 months. That's how people calculate projects. Right? Well, Brooks said this is a fairy tale, the myth of the month. It doesn't work like that. But intuitively, it is so strong to do it. But the measured, I wanted to add his numbers to this graph and see how they could connect. They couldn't. Because he said, well, the cheapest project, the lowest cost, is with 2 people. The fastest project, he measured 500 projects with similar size and different team size. So he just got the numbers and nobody could change the numbers anymore because the projects were done. Yeah? And he said, the fastest project is 5 to 7 people, but only 25% or 20% faster. But time to market is very important, so maybe there's some economic optimum. You know why agile teams should be about 7 and not more? Yeah. If you go more, 1 person has no communication lines, 2 people have 1, 3 people have 3. Yeah? And so it is almost exponential, the number of communications, if you have more people. If you have too many people, you only have meetings and never do any work. Yeah? And this is what we call the 9 mothers area, where some managers think you take 9 mothers and make a baby in 1 month. Some people say, I'm going to make 9 babies, but that's another story. So intuition points you in the wrong direction. That's the optimum. Now see what you do. How do you design an airplane? Probably your company get bust. Only few companies in the world survived. You can't fight this law. You have to work with it and see what you can do. Many solutions, but that's another story. This is the end I want to come to, is what can we do? What's the low-hanging fruit? Saving time. Half of what people do in any work later proves not to have been necessary. If in the retrospective you decide, hey, the work was not necessary, time already evaporated. If before the work you imagine that you've done it and say, hey, that's not necessary, you can still decide not to do it, not to spend the time. It is so easy to spend less time and therefore do more in the same time with the same amount of people. So in efficiency, in what we do, for whom we do it, what we do not, how we do it, etc., etc. And when we do it, which order. We have seen something about ordering. And time boxing. Time boxing, moving the deadline towards you to make it felt at the first moment already. Not pressure, but nice pressure. Yeah, not bad pressure. Feature boxing is waiting until it's done. That's the opposite of time boxing. Yeah? Well, when it is done, well, when it is done. No, then it should be there. Thank you. So, continuous elimination of waste. Just this one. Starting deadlines. Yeah? Deadlines are nice, but if you are at the deadline, it's too late. So starting deadlines are the essence. They are much more important. There is some minimum time to do something. If you start 1 day later, you already know you're going to end up 1 day later. Yeah? So make an inventory of your starting deadlines. Hopefully they're all after now. Yeah? And then of course you have to move stuff because you can't do everything at the same time. But just the idea, deadlines are important to finish. Starting deadlines are important to know when you should have started. Otherwise you already can tell, forget it, you won't get it. Okay, this is just one little thing of what we call the evolutionary project management approach. Evolutionary because in the Plan, Do, Check, Act, we introduce evolution, mutations in the way we work, creating fast evolution. That's what I learned from a guy, Tom Gilp, how to define these things, quantifying everything we do. And I started quantifying the work we do, not only what we do, but also how we do it. And that's what I just took one little thing out of it and how we use that. And that's what I do if I coach a team. I find out what the first bottleneck is, and we do one of these things. And you can download the stuff. This is why we do it, what we do, how we do it. Did we do it? Efficiency. We organize the work efficiently, effective. And what will happen? And that's what we did today. What will happen and what are we going to do about it? And zero defects is an attitude. Zero defects is something I would like to discuss with those people who are interested. Is anybody interested how to move towards zero defects? Okay, let's have a talk, maybe this afternoon or otherwise tomorrow. I had the talk in Minsk a few years ago, so I couldn't repeat it. I thought maybe we can next year. Right result, right time, I call that quality on time. Thank you. And again, you can make pictures, but you already can download from my website this stuff.
Questions?
In the back.
Thanks for the speech, and could you please explain which tools do you have for the planning and maybe for calculating the focus factor, and who do this? Every person in the team or manager? Thanks.
You know, if the manager does it, nobody believes it. Yeah? I had this project where the boss came in to the team and they asked one of the team guys, how's it going? When do I get my stuff? He said, there's a project manager sitting there. He has Microsoft Project. So I went to the project manager and he looked at it. I don't know what's happening. I can't read that. Plan B. The boss comes in, asks the guys, how's it going? Because in the meantime I said, project manager, can you put it on a whiteboard? Yeah? On a whiteboard, I have it in my computer. Can you please, if you know exactly what it is, it's easy to put it on the whiteboard, right? So he did. Boss comes in, asks the guys, how's it going? Well, project manager has a whiteboard, you can go there. So he went to the whiteboard with the project manager. He looked at it, looked at what they were doing, completely disconnect. Plan C. Guys, can you put it yourself on the whiteboard? Took 1 or 2 hours more, but they're clever guys, so they put their own planning for a few weeks. Yeah? Why a few weeks? Because then you easily can change the order. If you focus on one sprint, you don't know whether that's the right way. Yeah, just a few. And it's their work, it's their commitment, and if they put it there, the commitment is stronger. Boss comes in, guy, how is it going? And together they walk to the whiteboard, and the boss said, hey, that I understand. That, is it better, thinking about the customer, to move it? And either they discussed yes or no. So they had a discussion. He left it. So my tool is a whiteboard. And in this case, we had Excel projecting on the whiteboard. Yeah, because then I didn't need my camera. That's my tool. Any data people put in the computer, you lose control, right? People love to put it in the computer because then it's invisible. That's why I love whiteboards, because it's big. And the first whiteboard took 6 weeks. I said, can I have a whiteboard? They said, we have no place to put it on the wall. I said, we can buy with wheels. Okay, the next whiteboard took 1 week because they understood the power of the whiteboard. Okay?
Thank you so much for your presentation. And my question about what do you think about approach then developers write tests together, the QA, and there are two opinions that it's bad or not bad. Maybe it says in your approach time, and please tell me.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in this case, the tester knew everything about the environment, about the customers and things. Of course, the developers knew, but yeah. So I said, tester, you still keep your responsibility that if something goes out, customer is happy. Yeah, whatever they can do for you. I, as a developer, I do my own testing, and the testers find something. Yeah, I look at one way, tester look at a different way. Once we recognize that, people make mistakes, right? Right? We are people, right? Therefore, if we have done something, there are mistakes. Yeah? And testers are not better, because I think they're also human, aren't they? So we all make mistakes if we do something. So once you recognize that, if somebody is watching over your shoulder, you say, go away, don't police me. Manager, your boss sometimes watch over your shoulder, don't police me. Once you recognize this, I am doing something, therefore I am making errors, therefore introducing defects. I know, we all know we are doing that. So please, you ask somebody, please watch over my shoulder. Because if somebody watches over your shoulder, it is easier to do the right thing than if nobody does. If nobody does, easy to make a shortcut. Yeah? So that's not the answer to your question, but actually the answer to your question is plan to check act. You ask the team. And if somebody says, well, we could do this, the next cycle, I work every week with a cycle, we do it, yeah? And we check, did it help, did it not? So if there is a problem with that, we may change it or not do it anymore. If there is no problem, we keep doing it. So it depends on the attitude of the developers. But if you come discuss about zero defects, you will find that testers are hardly necessary anymore. Don't worry, that will take for your lifetime. So, but yeah, developers should not produce defects, and they do. So how can we catch them even before testing? But that's another story we can discuss later. Yeah. So the standard answer is always plan, do, check, act. Because we have clever people, you're clever, you guys are clever. I'm sure you can find some idea. If this is a problem, what are we going to do about it? And the problem is we usually don't have time. We think we don't have time. We don't have time to do it better, and we have all the time to repair later. We don't. Any more?
Спасибо за доклад. Мне очень понравилась первая часть.
I can't hear that. Somebody has to translate for me, sorry.
Нет, у него нету. Я поняла. Что делать, если мы уже распланировали дату, отдали клиенту, сказали, что мы там сдадим эту фичу там 8 апреля, сдаем ее, и в итоге оказывается, что клиент говорит, я не это имел в виду. У нас уже все, дедлайн прошел, но мы друг друга неправильно поняли, время кончилось, и что делать в этой ситуации?
Окей, спикеры, простите, можете вопрос спикеру перевести? Последний вопрос.
What are we going to do about it? If this is a problem.
Вы ее, да.
Да, пусть повторит.
Ее вопрос последний перевести можете?
Повторите. Она говорила, я не запоминала.
Можешь еще раз сказать вопрос?
Еще раз. Что делать, если мы как команда...
Maybe have to switch.
Простите.
Try again.
Теперь можно?
I don't hear anything now. Now I hear myself.
Я слышу только себя, ничего не слышу.
Вы можете перевести?
Thank you.
Okay, the question is next. What we're going to do if we have passed our deadlines and give like a result of a product to our customers, yes, and we finished with any deadlines, but the main problem is this, that we misunderstand each other and they choose that product that they for sure don't want. So what we're going to do in this situation?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Хорошо, спасибо.
Well, my answer is, what could we do about it? And you know. Yeah? So, if the deadline is passed, or even the week before the deadline, or there is no excuse. I have a special stamp I use in my teams. They come with the excuses. Yeah, we couldn't be on time on the deadline because they and they and they. It's never us, of course. I have a special stamp for that. Bullshit. Yeah, that's the bullshit stamp. Somebody gave me actually a bullshit stamp when they heard me so many times. But this works much better than a thing on paper. So, what... always excuses. We are so good at excuses. But we knew a lot earlier that we were not going to make it on the deadline, right? Prediction doesn't have to be exact. But weeks before, we could have said, we won't make it. Now, if you tell your customer 1 or 2 months before we are not going to make it, how are we going to solve this dilemma? We already are optimized. We cut all the waste. Yeah, we don't spend that 50% on the things we don't need anymore. But still, we now already know we are not going to make all these things. What are we going to do about it together? If 2 months before you say that, they understand. If 1 day before that, they don't understand. Okay, now should we explain Agile? Yeah? We have so many cycles because you better assume that your assumptions are wrong. Yeah? I also tell my team, guys, and guys like you as well, we are already so deformed, we can't even imagine what normal people find normal. Therefore, we have to find out by giving something and see what happens. Does anybody has a sprint demo? Yeah? So you invite people and you say, do you like this? Yeah? And then that's boring when they look at that because that's technical stuff and that's no value. So that's boring, so they start asking boring questions. They ask, why is that button blue? Shouldn't that be yellow? And then, new requirement, change of color, new use case, more time. So that's another story. I hope I still have the 1 minute to explain that very shortly. Yeah? If demo is already a dangerous word, but if you want to use that word, it's okay with me. You give your result to the stakeholder sitting there or standing there. You zip your mouth, handcuff your hand, and observe. Then you see things that they struggle with. Yeah, but how do they know what to do? If they buy the package, you're not there to tell them. It should be intuitive, automatically. You find out what's lacking so that it works with the user immediately. And because our assumptions are wrong, better assume our assumptions are wrong, we have to give it and learn. And that's the whole idea of the Plan, Do, Check, Act, not only for the work we do, but also for the product. We, to the best of our knowledge, we designed it this way. Now we give it. Actually, the first Deming cycle, when he taught that to the Japanese in 1950, it was not Plan, Do, Check, Act. He said, design, manufacture, sell, see what people are doing with it. You know people taking your product and they do something. And you say, oh, you shouldn't do that. There was this demo and the R&D boss said, can I do it? They said, this is demo, you shouldn't touch the system. I said, well, couldn't he? Okay, they said, can you fill in your credit card number here? So he filled in Jan van Leeuwen, his name. Crash. Etc., etc., etc. Assume your assumptions are wrong. We have to find out before the deadline. Not on the deadline, that's too late. The most interesting question. And the other one, there were two more, I think. Yeah, can I cut one?
You can,
You want half a t-shirt? Then I take it to avoid the problem. Thank you.